Hi, this is Paul Sharpe at D'Addario. I'm from the University of North Carolina School of the Arts, and I'm here to talk about how to stand appropriately with the double bass. This is one of those things there are many different opinions about how exactly you should do it, but I like to look for the most comfort and just ease of playing. So I have two methods to teach standing with the instrument. The first has a series of steps, which are not that complicated, but helpful in kind of situating you exactly comfortably with the instrument. First, I start out with the double bass right in front of me. I have a 90-degree angle between chest and arm. I have my hand on top of the saddle here, the webby part of my hand right in the corner of the saddle, and I'm standing out with my arms straight in front of me. You can see how that looks. You might look at my belly button and see that it's right in line with the side of the instrument. The next step in this process would be to turn the bass about 45 degrees to the right. All right, because I have long arms, I'm going to take a baby step forward. We're talking inch or two forward. Then I pull the bass into me and let it rest a couple inches to the left of my belly button. Once I found that position, you should also know that it's right in front of the pelvic bone, right about here. So it's midway between belly button and pelvic bone, and it's resting comfortably right there. If I take the bass, and sometimes I'll do this with my students, grab it right here and ask them to just resist the twisting motion that I'm doing with my arms, just with the position of their hips, pelvic bone, then they get the idea about how important, just positioning on your body can be. If I miss that step, the bass slides right by and I have no control with my belly over it. The other thing is this line from here to the interior of the thigh is also very useful. Sometimes people have a hard time finding their pelvic bone, but if they run along the interior of their thigh, they can catch the bass that way too. So this line, very important. Okay, so then after I've found this place with the bass 45 degrees, I want to adjust and make sure that the instrument is at the appropriate angle for me personally. Sometimes you'll wind up with the bass way out here, or sometimes you'll wind up with a bass right back here. Ideally for me, the bass neck should be about a hand width away from your cheek. All right, so I always just double check, make sure that's happening. From this point forward, we've basically done all of the steps, but probably the most important thing you can do to make sure the bass is really set up properly is to just test the balance of the double bass. In other words, you don't want to be holding it up with your arm. You don't want it too far forward. You want to find the balance point of the instrument. So I'm doing this right now. Just trying to find a place where it'll settle for a moment and be willing to fall either direction. Some people liken this to a hinge, just right along your belly. The bass kind of is like a door that opens and shuts. It's good to play around with this a little bit so that you recognize that level of comfort with the instrument moving. We play with this all the time. And then once you got this balance thing going, I would take your left hand, nice C-shaped left hand, put it right about here, and just practice having the bass fall forward into the fingers so that it's actually pressing down. I can actually pluck. And then practice having the bass fall back onto the thumb. Do that about 10 times so you can get that motion down to just right at the right place where you can just lightly toss it back and forth between thumb and fingers. Here's thumb and fingers. This is where the bass lives. You want it to be a neutral place. Again, going back to what I said earlier about letting the bass rest on the thumb, this is probably one of the biggest problems I see when I'm going out and seeing young players trying to learn how to hold the bass. It's that they let this bass rest on their thumb, meaning when they try and shift, it really stops them up. What we want to have happen is that you are able to go from top to bottom of the instrument with a smooth, easy shifting motion. Okay, that was the first way I teach standing. Here's another way which works very well, an alternative. I find 50% of the time one way works for one student and the other way doesn't. So take your pick. In this way, I position the bass straight up and down on its end pin, and I try and find the balance point for the instrument. Just my index finger is holding the instrument up, basically. Once I've found that, keep it there. Bring my belly up against the side of the bass, so it's resting gently on me. And then I liken this to walking like Charlie Chaplin. I start moving, rotating around like this, keeping the bass in position until my left knee contacts the side of the instrument. You'll see that I'm just standing like normal, like I would in line at the bank or the grocery store or something like this. But then I just slide the bass in and bang, it's balanced. And I can take my both hands away. And it's also not much weight against me. The average bass weighs, what, 25 pounds? All that weight is going pretty much into the floor with just, feels like a few ounces against my belly, and it's perfectly in control. The bass rides right down from this point here, between, again, belly button and pelvic bone, right down my thigh, catches my knee right here, and we're good to go. One other thing about this is that if I take my knee away, if I move it away, the bass wants to go that way. So basically, you've got this bass just propped up. That little action of the knee and thigh keeps it from corkscrewing around in front of you, and you got the bass really comfortably stable. Either way works for people. You take your pick.